Welcome everyone to our online event. We have multiple announcements for you today. And as you can see, we are at Haldex, and being at a Haldex scoring stage feels like home for us, because most of our collections that we have captured over the past 10 years are captured in this room. Yeah, and with me is Jan and Graham. And Haldex, I mean, how many sections and instruments we have captured in this room? I mean, starting from very large string ensembles to solo instruments, even very specific ensembles that we have captured within the Metropolis Arc series, or also the orchestral textures in time. And everything fits together in a very consistent way. And I think this is something that really sets us apart from the competition, that we have recorded most of our stuff consistently within one room. And today is a very special day for us, because we would like to announce something we have worked on for a very long time. So let's see what it is.
So, we're very, very proud today to present Berlin con Sordino strings. It's a medium-sized string section, and all the players are using mutes on their instruments, hence the name con Sordino. The resulting sound is quite unique. It's very gentle. It's a warmer, softer sound than you have with regular strings. It's often described as being very well-rounded, and it has a lot of character and is very expressive. It's also a very modern sound. And you can think of it as a kind of an extra color to work with. It's beautiful, it's very inspiring when you're using it on its own, but you'll find it's also very useful for layering. You can layer it up with your existing strings, and you'll have a much richer, more characterful sound. So, Berlin con Sordino strings is available now at the Orchestral Tools online shop at a special intro price of €349. Okay, so Sasha, maybe you want to join us, and we'll find out a little bit about the background to this new collection. So, Sasha and Hendrik, what gave you the idea, or where did the inspiration come from to create this Con Sordino collection?
I mean, originally we had the Berlin Strings recordings back the days, and we thought and talked a lot about what we should do with the Con Sordino thing. And Sasha, you also brought up the idea maybe we can come up with a kind of a simulation so that we have all the various articulations still available and not just a single Con Sordino patch. But to really do it right, of course, the only way to do is to record everything again, but with Con Sordino, or in a better way, to record all the articulations and all the important stuff, but all with Con Sordino applied to the instrument.
Yeah, because I mean, I know from other collections, this is sometimes just like a single thing which is done with EQ.
Yeah, most of the time it's really treated as an add-on to the regular sound. And yeah, Hendrik also already mentioned it. The big problem is if you want to do it really comprehensively, you have to record all the articulations, you have to record dynamic layers and basically everything again, just with the mutes, because the effect can be simulated to a certain extent with some filtering applied, but it's not linear. It reacts differently in the low register of the string instrument. It has a much bigger effect, the mute itself, than on the high register. And as basically with everything, if you want the real deal, then you actually have to record it that way. There's no way around it. And yeah, last year we thought it's now it's the time to really do it, because we also thought a comprehensive Con Sordino strings library is really missing in the lineup. I believe not only with the Berlin series, but maybe in general. So, and the sound is so, it is so well known and it is really unique, but it is used in so many ways, especially in film music. Most composers use it, as you already mentioned, to layer it. They maybe do another take with a certain piece and then layer it together with the non-Con Sordino strings. But it has its own character and its own style and everything. So, yeah, we thought it's about time to release something like that and to make it available to the composers.
Yeah, there's another question I've got. Like, what do you expect people to be creating with this? Is it for a very specific use case, or is it something that's more of a general tool that just sounds a bit different?
The interesting part of this, of course, is when you combine this so that we have the Con Sordino applied to the instrument and then playing flautando and soltasto. Yeah. This is something where true magic happens.
Yeah. I mean, there is most certainly not a special use case for mutes, but there are many of them. So that's also why we not only recorded standard long notes and some short notes and stuff, but we did this thing. We recorded also not only with soltasto techniques or even with Colenio bowings, but we also did harmonics with it, and again, not only long notes but tremolo and stuff as well. And we even for one special patch there is this practice mute also that is not regularly used as a mute. The players use it basically in hotels and on journeys to put on and to make the instrument really quiet to warm up or to practice.
The hotel mute.
The hotel mute, okay. Yes. And we also recorded some articulations with that one. And so this whole collection is really very, very rich. It has all the bread and butter stuff. It's quite comprehensive, but it also has a lot of special colors, and I think also some colors and some articulations that were never recorded before. So yeah, I think basically everybody who uses and works with orchestral strings can get something out of that collection.
Especially for emotive passages where it requires a lot of long notes and atmospheric passages and quiet moments with the orchestra. We have a little bit of tremolo shimmering, and then applying this Con Sordino gives a very atmospheric character to all this. And also for layering, as you mentioned before, because normally when we do orchestral recording sessions, we do an additional pass of the recording, but with the Con Sordino applied to the strings, and then you have a different kind of sound. And theoretically, as we have the same section sizes like with Berlin Strings main library, you can combine it simply with playing the same thing with the Con Sordino strings on top to just give it another color, like you would do an overdub in a real orchestral recording session.
And we have all the different styles with different vibrato intensities and stuff, so that you really can combine it. But also another thing which speaks a bit against simulating the effect is that the style and the playing actually changes also when the players apply the mutes. They react obviously to the sound, and when we record the samples, we are also always, for every sample, we are looking for a certain color, a certain expression. For example, if we do a very quiet tremolo, we are looking for a certain kind of shimmering effect or whatever you want to call it. And because that changes, the sound and the color changes when you apply a mute or any other preparation to an instrument, this also has a great impact, and is also something you cannot simulate with filtering or other post-production techniques.
Yeah, I also was a little bit concerned at the beginning, because doing so many articulations and dynamic layers and legato and all those things again with the Sordino option applied, that's an expensive thing. And at the end, when we really tried it for the first time, I mean, we called after you got the first patches, and then, I mean, it sounds so amazing when you play it, and you have this very atmospheric sound and this little noise that comes from the strings. It's really a kind of total different thing, although it sounds very similar from a technical perspective, but there is something also on how the musicians perform. They perform differently with the mutes applied.
Yeah, so it's worth doing it properly, I guess. I mean, you mentioned this earlier. How does the new Berlin Sordino strings fit in with the rest of the Berlin series?
I mean, it's a really well fit for the Berlin Strings main library, because, as we said, we use the same section size, and we also try to be quite consistent articulation-wise, so that you can really combine the stuff. But it's not an add-on to the Berlin Strings main library. I mean, you can use it totally well on its own. It is more, it leans itself more towards more quiet and atmospheric playing and music, so it's not for your big soaring melodies or your big action pieces. Except if you are Bernard Herrmann, because he for example, in Psycho, he lets the strings play very aggressively with mutes, actually, which was quite uncommon. And we did some of that stuff also, some short notes and some articulations were quite aggressive. But overall, this is more on the softer side and on the very warm and atmospheric side of the sound. And yeah, I mean, it fits well. It fits well into the setup. It works nicely on its own. So yeah.
Great. We can have a listen in a bit. I mean, I have one last question for you. Which is, I mean, we were here a couple of months ago in the hall in winter, and we were talking about the final chapter of the Metropolis Arc series. So, is Sordino the last chapter for the Berlin Strings series, or can we expect more strings in the future?
I mean, for us, the Berlin series is a living project. I mean, over the past, I don't know, 8 years or since we started with Berlin Woodwinds, I need to look it up, I don't know. But
it's 10 years already.
Oh, it's already 10 years?
2012 was the release.
So when you just look back those 10 years, we constantly added new collections to it and new additions. Also things like the Special Bows 1 and 2 with the Sultasto. It's really a library that's, it's probably one of my favorite string libraries that we have within the Berlin Strings range. And therefore, for us, it's a living project. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the interesting part is here also at Haldex that we record everything here in situ, and also that the natural volume relations in between all those instruments are like during a real recording session. That makes it really usable in a scoring in a day of a film composer, because all the instruments are fitting together. It's consistently sampled within the same room.
Great, so there's more to come from the Berlin series, I hope.
Absolutely, and it's just a journey that will go on for the next couple of years, for sure, yeah.
Well, then it's probably time now to dive in and take a close look at Berlin Sordino strings.
Yeah, sure, so when we just open up the library tab here, you see all the included instruments, or sections in that case. So we have 2 violin sections, violins 1, violins 2. And then we have the viola section, cello section, as well as the bass section. And we also did a lot of special articulations. We put them in a separate instrument. Just as you see, there's a lot of stuff that we have captured with this library. This is just the first violins now. And I've preloaded some swells that we have recorded, which I personally find very, very beautiful. So let's have a listen. very beautiful. And we can really hear also the Sordino effect on which just sounds a little bit more atmospheric and lighter. I mean, another thing is the sustains plus legato. We've captured 3 different legato types for this. And here's a little example for this. And as you can see, we captured multiple legato options. And when I play, for example, with high velocity, then I get the expressive legato.
Yeah, so basically you get more of a slur portamento effect there. I think also something worth mentioning here when we hear this, also with the swells before, you can really see that kind of sound working very well in film, because the mute basically takes away any bite and harshness strings usually tend to have. So it works very well as an underscore, because it doesn't stand in the way of sound effects or voices or whatever. So this is also maybe a reason why that Sordino sound is quite popular in film music.
Makes sense.
And yeah, so you can definitely hear this, and especially with the violins, who usually can sound quite intense, especially in the high register, and the mute dampens that and makes it sweeter and softer.
Yeah, I think for the violin it's very obvious, the effect. We also have a huge set of things like portatos or also various short notes in general. Here's an example of the portato long and portato short. You can also change the length of those portatos. For example, when you play the portato longs, you can also shorten them. So that's the original length, and that's shortened. So you can also control this by yourself, even though you can, of course, switch between the short option and the long option. But the cool thing with those portato articulations for all the libraries that we did so far is really that those articulations already have a kind of a baked-in expression. And using those articulations make your mock-ups way more lively. And that's why we captured them. Also, a nice example for the cello, for example, is the expressive sustains, where we also try to capture some expression within the dynamic and also on how the cello play with vibrato. Also, at the end of the note, you have this little crescendo, this little pressure or this tension that will be developed there.
Yeah, I think this is also something worth mentioning, that we always try, especially for the long notes, to record multiple attack types or bowing expression types of sounds. And for the Sordino strings, we also have this very standard immediate attack, which is quite plain. Then we have a soft attack, and then we did this expressive kind of attack that we also did way back with Berlin strings, actually, which has this very much weight on the beginning, and then the sound backs out a bit and the tension rises again till the end. And I think those are also things that help a lot when programming or playing expressive lines and melodies or even chords. You don't actually have to do much mod wheel work. You can basically have the recordings, have the samples, do most of the stuff and most of the work for you, and you still have choice because we did many different kinds of those articulations.
Yeah, so it's really detailed then. I mean, this is a
also when it
complex
comes
library.
to the Sordino option itself, so we use the regular ones, but as you mentioned before, we also have those hotel mutes. We can also have a listen to those because they're very specific.
Yeah, it's more of a special effect, but they really sound quite nice.
They're extremely quiet. Almost.
Yeah, they are very quiet, and they basically take away everything that a violinist would consider beautiful. The
so
sound
that the
of
neighbor
instrument.
doesn't hear it.
The neighbor doesn't hear it. No.
So this is fast tremolo, and we also have this kind of irregular tremolo, which is more slow down and has a very unique texture sound. Very beautiful. Also the regular sustains.
They're really gentle, huh?
Yeah, it becomes very, very thin and very fragile, but yeah, it has its beauty on its own.
Totally.
Yeah.
Maybe also some words about the regular Sordino color that we have captured, because we did not only use the regular Sordino things. We also bought some wooden ones, and we tried to mix them and to see what really brings the best sound.
We experimented with it. We tried with every section. We tried the wooden mutes and the rubber mutes. And for the first violins, we really decided to use half and half. So 4 of the players used the wooden mute and 4 of the players used the rubber mutes. For the other sections, we settled with the rubber ones. We liked the sound better, and also it was simply more familiar. It's not that much of a difference, but the rubber mute has more of that warmth, also quite more modern character. I think wooden mutes are mostly used in like period performances, because originally mutes were only wooden, I guess. The rubber ones are the newer ones, and yeah, but we experiment with it. And for the first violins, we liked the mixed color quite a lot. It added some more brightness to the section, which might help if you wanted to be your lead voice.
So you could use these things as lead voices then, right?
Yeah, I mean, and as said before, if you want a very big, lush, soaring string sound, then you better should use strings without mutes, because it can get quite strained, especially in the high register. We recorded the high dynamic layer, so you not only get quiet sounds, but if you are using too much of that high dynamic layer, it sounds quite strained, as one might imagine. If that's what you're going for, then it's fine.
Well, also your example with the Bernard Herrmann example.
Yeah, most certainly this was a consideration of his when he chose to do that, because it really has an aggressiveness on its own, like you strangle someone or something like that. I would imagine so. Yeah, but we recorded that. We recorded really the full dynamic range, so you have it available. But one should consider it that it sounds the best or the most beautiful on the lower dynamic layers.
Yeah, maybe you can just hear it on the staccatos, for example. So we also have the higher dynamic layers there. But when we talk about those special articulations, I would also like to show the arpeggios. We did this for the I think for Metropolis Arc 2, it was the first situation where we recorded those arpeggio textures. And especially combined with this Sordino, this is also definitely, or to me, it was pretty much a surprise patch. So let's have a listen to this one. Very, very nice.
That's really good.
Yeah. Especially this fragileness that comes into the tone is something that comes from this Sordino playing. Yeah.
What we did, I mean, we did something like that with, as Henrik said, with Metropolis Arc 2 and also with the Time series libraries. What we did a bit different here is it is a little bit different kind of arpeggio, and we did not only record open chords like with root and fifth, but we also did major and minor chords that way. And this is a very effective and also surprisingly easy to perform string technique, but it's impossible to replicate with any kinds of legato or short note samples, especially in a section. So I think it's quite nice to have something like this as a texture and color within a string library.
Yeah, and what I mentioned at the beginning, I'm just loading in those Sultasto patches because this is really cool to combine Sultasto with Sordino.
Basically combine everything that makes the sound weaker on the instrument and then recording that.
Very nice. And also, I mean, still here we also have the various dynamic layers. Of course, it was very quiet because I think this is the sound that I like the most. But and also, I mean, the Berlin Sordino strings is really like a box of really inspirational articulations. And one of them are the Lure kind of articulation, how we call it, which is very similar to repetitions, but somehow has this kind of connection to the next note. I can just show you a little example of this. Maybe the slow ones.
Yeah, I think the special thing here, also why it's called Lure, is the string players don't change bow on every note, but they do multiple repetitions on one direction and then they change the direction. It has a different kind of expressiveness and sound to it. And yeah, I think those are tempo synced within the sign player, so they sync to your tempo. And it's also something, especially if you want those connected kind of repetitions, which is very hard to replicate with individual staccato or short portato notes. And so that's why we thought it's very useful to have something like that pre-recorded and ready to play. And because it's also such a common string articulation, and I think it sounds very, very nice with the mutes on that softer side.
Maybe you can also show the alternative to this is the mixed patterns, how we call it.
Yeah, we have some different kind of patterns. The first ones were simple quarter note repetitions, and then we also have those offbeat patterns.
Very nice. Then what's also in Berlin Sordino strings, what I really like is the set of harmonics that we have. We can also listen to some of them, which is, by the way, the same setup like I showed you for the hotel mute. And this is how it sounds. The tremolo. The slow irregular tremolo. And the regular sustain. They also have this little dampen effect on top, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the mutes, the harmonic, the tone itself is so quiet and so fragile that the noise from the bow is almost louder than the actual note, which I think is also very beautiful.
And I would also like to show the spiccatos. So let's have a listen to them. So this is Collegno Tratto combined with Soltasto, the violas. It's very, very quiet.
And with mute.
And with mute.
Everything that's possible combined.
Very, very nice. This is so quiet. I mean, it was also during the recording sessions. Yeah, we really needed to have to tell all the musicians to play as quiet as possible and also to make no movements and everything. So it's even if you hear a little bit but something in the sample, please forgive that here and there are some noises which are just impossible to not produce because the main tone is so quiet. Yeah.
Thanks very much. So that's Berlin Concertino Strings, and we told you earlier that we have a number of things to talk about today. So let's take a look at the next thing we've been working on.
We're really happy to say that the Berlin Strings SFX are now available on the Sign player. The Berlin Strings SFX is a beautiful effects collection containing different types of clusters, glissandi, measure trills, rips, runs, all that stuff that give really beautiful textures and colors to your music. And the great thing about it, right, Sasha, is that these effects are not only one-shots, they're really playable.
Yeah, it's not just a collection of basically single effects and assorted stuff that you can throw in your music. I mean, we have some of those, but we really try to focus on making those clusters and glissando performances playable. Yeah. So, for example, we have a whole set of aleatoric cluster chords for every section, which are consistent over different kinds of articulations, long notes, tremolos, short notes, and also with different dynamic layers. And then we have what I especially like very much, we have those ligeti clusters where basically every instrument plays its own pitch, and you get, if you then play multiple notes, you get really this very thick wall of sound, and they have also multiple dynamic layers, and even they are played with and without vibrato, so you can create very nice textures with it and really build your effects queue or your effects parts quite nicely with it. Maybe Hendrik can show us a bit of them.
I just loaded them. As you mentioned, we have those two modes. The one is without vibrato, and the other one is with vibrato, which you can control here with the MIDI CC. Those are the celli, by the way, which I like in particular with those legato effects. So start very quiet. And now with vibrato, and this vibrato is also like the dynamic layers are recorded in a very extreme way. So the dynamic span is extreme.
It's an effect vibrato. It's not
exactly
not the usual expressive vibrato. It's really quite heavy.
It almost feels like a tremolo effect or something, right?
Yeah, it has this kind of effect, and also what you can hear and see, which also takes a big part in the playability, is that those effects are not just recorded on one or two pitches or ranges of the instrument. We really recorded the whole range of the instrument, so you can really play low and high and in the middle register of each section, and yeah.
Yeah, another example also for the playability are those little chromatic short runs that we have captured here for the violins, for example. And here the same, we have those two options in between the down and upwards one, and they are really recording all those in all those different pitches.
Also reminds on the Hitchcock stuff you did.
I mean, it's a different kind of effect, but it's also, I mean, this is across the entire library that things are very playable and also offering an extreme dynamic range, and those makes those effects really flexible to use in any kind of scoring moment.
Yeah, and if you are sick of the very warm and soft sound of the Sordino strings, you can load those effects and have some more bite and some more aggressiveness in your life.
It's great.
I mean, also maybe what you can mention here are the measured trills as well. You can see the various intervals also on the performance view here, which you can, for example, to major third.
Beautiful. It's great to have these effects strings now on the Sign platform. They are currently on sale on the Orchestral Tools website. As it's all about strings today, we also want to introduce something additionally, the Berlin Symphonic Strings Update 1.5. So let me tell you what's inside. We recorded a new molto vibrato layer for the violins 1. So currently we had the expressive legato and the subtle vibrato, and now we added a molto vibrato layer available for all three sustain types. So they are available for the soft sustains, for the immediate, and for the accented sustains. So with these additional layer, you get a lot of more expression for the violins 1. And then further, we replaced the whole legato layer of the loudest layer of the violins 1, because we were not 100% convinced with the sound, so we went back to the scoring stage to record a new layer. And also we added another articulation. We now have portato for violins, violas, and celli. And we did legato adjustments for all instruments, and for sure we also did some further minor bug fixes that were reported during the last month and years. So this is the Berlin Symphonic Strings 1.5 update. It's now available, and it's available for free for our customers. But the content is not the only thing that we updated. So, Hendrik, would you like to tell us what's new on the Sign player?
Yeah, so we just prepared the newest update for Sign. And as you can see, a lot of things changed also on the surface because the UI got a little fresh up. You can see we have everything, the entire switching of pages feels more snappier, and also we changed the kind of button design and overall layout. Also when you click on the mixer, can differentiate in between an instrument channel and a microphone position channel. So when you close them, you see the difference here. And also when it comes to the articulation settings, we introduced now the VST3 support, as well as the support for the M1 chip for Apple's new chipset. And also beside that, we worked a lot on legato, improved the legato system on Sign with getting additional settings for our content creators. So when we create and balance all those legato settings, we can now go even deeper to refine certain things and makes the legato more fluid. And this will also be part of the Berlin Symphonic Strings update, and of course also of Berlin Sordino Strings. And we will slowly now update with little instrument patch updates, also the remaining collections over the upcoming months. Yeah.
Great, thanks very much. So it's time for the final announcement of tonight. This is something that a lot of people have been asking us for quite a long time. So to celebrate the release of Berlin Sordino Strings, we decided to put all 7 Berlin Strings collections together into one bundle, which, for obvious reasons, we're calling the Berlin Strings Bundle. This is all 7 collections. It's the flagship Berlin Strings, the big sound of the Symphonic Strings, the brand new Sordino Strings, the special bows 1 and 2, the first chairs, and the Strings SFX that we were talking about earlier. And this is probably the most comprehensive strings package you can get right now. So there's a lot of different styles, multiple section sizes, really detailed solo instruments, and there's a lot of articulations in this package. It's very, very detailed. But the best thing is that because it was all recorded in the same space, right here, with the same setup, with the same attention to detail, everything is completely consistent and it all fits together perfectly. So the Berlin Strings Bundle is available right now from the Orchestral Tools website at a very, very special offer price of 999 euros. The regular price for these collections would be almost 2,700 euros. So we're really pleased that we can offer this very special price, and we're really pleased that we could put this bundle together because a lot of people have asked us for it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's event. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for joining this celebration of strings. And from all of us here in Berlin, very, very best wishes. See you again soon.